Every job seeker hates when they upload their resume into an application and then they find out they have to re-enter the data. So why is that happening, and what you should be doing when you encounter this? Hi, I'm Shelley Piedmont, a former recruiter turned career coach, and I want you to thrive and not just survive your job. So this is one of the things that drives job seekers crazy, and they don't understand why this is happening. They're uploading the information. Shouldn't that be enough? Well, there's reasons that sometimes you're going to have to re-enter that information. So let's talk about two of those. The first reason is that the ATS did not pull over the information into the application. There's no information, and so it wants you to put something in there. Sometimes it is the ATS's fault, applicant tracking system, and sometimes it's your fault. So let me explain. First of all, the ATS is a file cabinet, and each person who applies has a file. Now, most ATSs have what is called parsing capability, and that is it's going to move information from the resume into the appropriate field in the database. So it wants something in there. Sometimes it just doesn't know where that information is, can't find it, is confused, and so it doesn't pull it over. It's not 100% perfect. So that sometimes is why you will have fields. Now say fill that because it didn't come over. Now, sometimes the missing information is your fault. Now, what do I mean? So there are some elements in a resume that an applicant tracking system may not be able to read. Now, if it's a little bit more sophisticated, maybe it can, but you don't know what that particular organization is using. Both headers and footers are problematic for ATS systems. So oftentimes, if you're putting contact information or something like that in a header, it won't be able to read it. Sometimes it can't read text boxes. So lots of times people want to put stuff in text boxes and it can't read that either. So that information doesn't pull over. Or if you have it in some kind of graphical element, it won't be able to read it either. So you can control that by not using those elements in your resume. If you like this content, I always appreciate hitting that like button, subscribe, and share this with somebody who is looking for a job. So the second reason may be for validation. And let me talk a little bit about that. For most organizations, your application is actually the official document for applying. And you will notice that usually at the end, you have to sign or check mark or something to affirm that the information there is correct. So if the application, which is internal to the applicant tracking system, is where the official information is being held, then they may want you to go back and just enter that information to confirm to them that that information is correct. And it seems like a bit of a pain. Why just pull it over and call it a day and you can read it over and just confirm? Well, some organizations have their process. And so if that's what they're asking of you, that might be why you're having to repeat that information. Now let's talk about what you should do and what you shouldn't do when you're encountering this. So I know many job seekers get really frustrated, and so they just want to not do it or do as little as they can, and so they put see my resume or see resume or something to that effect. You don't want to do that, and I'm going to tell you why. Those fields are important for the applicant tracking system, because those fields are used for searches. So if a recruiter is looking for somebody who has a specific skill, for example, or an education or something like that, they're going to look for that through the search function in the applicant tracking system. And the applicant tracking system then is going to go to that field and look at the information. Well, See, resume is not something that a recruiter is going to be searching on. So therefore, you put yourself at a disadvantage. Another thing that puts you at a disadvantage when you do that is the ranking feature. So the ranking feature, if it's looking for keywords or for something else, it's going to look at the fields. So a C resume in a field is not going to be helpful because that doesn't mean anything for the ranking. It's not looking back at the resume, it's just looking at the fields that are completed. So you are putting yourself at a disadvantage by doing that. Now, one thing you can do if it's available to you is the fields may have a fair amount of characters that you can use. So in your resume, you may have pared things down because maybe you wanted to fit it to one page, or you just thought, well, you know what, I don't really need to add this. But if you have the opportunity and it makes sense, you might be able to add more to those fields than are what is in your resume. Additional skills, perhaps, or you can add a little bit more in terms of a description. Whatever the field may have, you could add more, and that potentially can help you both score higher if that's a feature that that recruiter is using, or to be found in searches. So think about that. So now you know why this might happen. I am hoping that, as time goes on, our applicant tracking systems get better so that the information that is actually on the resume gets pulled over more completely. But, every organization has their own way of doing their application process. Somewhat a lot more information than you would normally find on the resume. And they're going to ask you a lot of additional questions and make you fill that out. But in terms of information that you have on your resume that can be pulled over, I'm hoping that organizations think about that and try not to make it more difficult than it needs to be. The hiring process is already lengthy. Whatever an organization can do to make it shorter on the front end, well, all applicants will appreciate that.